thanks for joining. I'm Josh, also known as Bagel Finagle, and we're going to teach you how to grow broccoli microgreens. We use a 3-tray system, 2 that are solid, and right here in the middle we have 1 that has these drain holes. We'll get to the reason for that in a bit. We also like to use this weight. It helps germination, and I'll tell you more about that process in just a second. So the next step you need to do is take your tray with drain holes, place it into one that is solid, just like that. Now after you do that, you want to go ahead and put your medium in. I use soil. Okay, so we got about 6 to 8 cups in this tray. And remember, like I just showed you, we have the solid tray on the bottom and then that tray with the holes right here on top. So now the next step is to go ahead and get all the soil loose. Okay, you see some of it's clumpy. It's depending on what media you're using, if it's coco coir. You could even use a mesh system. We'll get into that in a different video. For now, let's just stay focused on soil grows, all right? Soil is the media that we're using today. So I want to go ahead and take the edge right here of my spade and run it into the soil. What I'm trying to accomplish is I want to break all of these clumps up, okay? That's going to help with watering, that's going to help with even germination, and it's going to help develop strong root systems. So we'll go ahead and jump into this, crushing this up. Look, it doesn't have to be perfect, but the more attention that you pay to detail in the beginning processes, the better grows you're going to have. And the more consistent you are with your technique, the better grows you're going to always have. So I'm crushing it through. Everything's looking good. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and even the tray out. So I got most of those clumps out. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but now we're going to go ahead and take the flat or the round of our spade, and I'm going to run it along the edges, along the sides, in the middle here, and we're going to try to even this out as best we can. Okay, you want a nice even plane to plant your seeds on. It's going to help overall the growth. As far as specifics, it's really going to help water distribution. All right, everything's looking good here. I'm going to catch this one corner right there, guys. And as you become more proficient with your technique, how long that just took me, maybe 40 seconds, you're going to get it down quicker, much quicker. Beautiful. Okay, so now we've prepped our tray out. We evened all this media out. The next step is to go ahead and give it a good mist. Now we're going to give it a mist because as we put our seeds on, you want, I don't want to say a hard surface, but that surface tension when it's wet is definitely increased versus when the soil is dry, right? If I run my hands through it now, I'm going to leave some marks. As we spread that seed around, you're going to have to put your hands in every once in a while and maybe maneuver some seeds that you accidentally spilled a little too much in the corner. So you want a good mist over this tray in order to be able to do that efficiently. So here we go. I'm going to begin. Look, there's no magic way to water a tray, especially when you're just prepping it out. The main thing is you want to go across the tray, make sure you get that whole soil bed pretty damp. Doesn't have to be soaking, but we're focusing here on getting the whole entire tray wet. All right, everything's looking good with that. We'll go ahead and wrap that up. Okay, so for your next step, after you have prepped your tray and you're ready to go ahead and start sowing that seed, you want to grab your favorite Greener Harvest seeds. These are broccoli. We love Greener Harvest seeds because of the high germination rate. They go above and beyond to make sure that they only sell seeds that have an extremely high germination rate. So for instance, all of this data right here, it shows you test results. And on germination right there, we see that the results are 97%. That's an insane germination rate for the microgreen industry. So I'm going to go ahead, zero out our scale, and we're going to go ahead and weigh out some seed. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put 32 grams here, and real fast, that 32 gram measurement for seeding is for a 10 by 20. This is a 10-inch by 20-inch tray. These are what commercial growers are going to use. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start weighing out our seed. We want 32 grams. We're getting close. One more, perfect. I'm good there. Let's go ahead and seed this tray up. Okay, so now we have 32 grams. I like to use a measuring cup, especially for small seeds. It really, you see how it fits in my hand. It's very, very maneuverable. You're able to really perfect where that seed goes. So we're gonna go ahead and start sowing the seed. I like to start in the corner, okay? The corner nearest me, and I like to start sowing up towards the next corner. And I just go back and forth down the tray. Now, as you develop your own technique, you might do zigzags, you might do circles, whatever you do, that's fine. But the whole purpose of this, seeding like this, you need to make sure that you don't overseed one specific area of this tray. And what I mean by that is just pouring all the seed out right there in the middle. You don't want to do that, so try to be as careful as you can and try to space these seeds out pretty evenly. All right, once again, it doesn't need to be perfect, but the more attention that you pay to the small details, the better results your grow is going to yield. All right, we're coming to the end. Now I got a couple of seeds left in here, so I'm gonna look for any blank spots. All right, and I'll backfill them in. Everything's looking good though, guys. We got a couple blank spots there. Beautiful, perfect. That is how you seed a 10 by 20 broccoli microgreen tray with 32 grams of seed. Okay, so once you've seeded your tray out nice and evenly, we're gonna go ahead and take this mister and we're gonna mist over the surface. All right, so this is where the magic happens. Once these seeds get this moisture and it makes its way into the center of that seed, it's gonna start growing. Okay, same thing, guys. Don't stay in one spot when you're misting your tray. Try to go over the entirety of the tray. All right, beautiful. Everything's looking good here. We're gonna make this loop right here and we're done. I'm perfect with that. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this third and final solid tray right here. We're gonna set it directly on top of these seeds. So if you notice, guys, we sowed those seeds directly on top of the soil, all right? So that, just like that, and then we're gonna take our block. This is a paver stone we got from Lowe's. Look at any kind of lumber yard or hardware store is probably gonna have these. The weight of this is about 15 pounds, maybe 12, 15 pounds, somewhere in there. It doesn't need to be really heavy, but you want it heavy enough to where it kind of simulates soil in a natural environment. And this is kind of like a farm hack. So throughout this video, we'll come back, it'll be days for us, but it's going to be a really short video for you. And I'm going to show you the grow process. I'm also going to show you certain things to look out for during some of the stages of microgreen. First stage of microgreen, people, this is germination. Okay, so we're going to do a quick 12-hour check-in from this point. It's only going to be a 24-hour check-in, but I want to show you something to look out for. So we're going to remove this block. We're going to peel up this tray. Now you may have some seeds that stick to that tray. You see that? Like that? You can do this to it. Simple as that. So if you've seen on some of the TikToks when we go live, I always do that to the tray. That knocks those seeds right off, and it kind of keeps your area a little cleaner. All right, so now what we'll be doing is taking our sprayer and we're going to go ahead and water up this broccoli. Okay, so I'm looking for any signs of movement. Now I do see some of these seeds are starting to crack, they are starting to germinate, but it is nowhere near where we want it to be. So we're going to give this a little water. Keep these seeds nice and moist. All right, just like that. That's plenty. And boom. And now what I'm gonna do is stack everything back. So we're gonna put this tray just like that. And then we're gonna put this paper stone just like that. So we'll be back in 24 hours with an update on this. All right, it's been another 24 hours. We're gonna go ahead and pull this top brick on our broccoli. Sorry for shaking the camera there. Okay, so look at this. This is a real good definition on what root hair looks like. So if you can see the fuzz attached to the roots, that's exactly what that is. All right, so what we'll do now is we'll grab the mister and we'll go ahead and start spraying and start watering these crops. So if you can see here, right here in this corner, we see some crop that has not germinated. So that could be from either lack of water, lack of pressure applied right there. It could be the soil could be a little bit lower. So I'm gonna give this a little extra water right here in this area. All right, now we're gonna finish watering this tray out. All right. Everything's looking good elsewhere. Absolutely gorgeous. These seeds will go back into germination now. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace this tray. All right. And we're gonna go ahead and put this brick back on there, and we're gonna check back in another 24 hours.
Okay, it has been another 24 hours for our broccoli, and it should be fully germinated by now to where we transition from the germination stage into blackout. So we're gonna remove this weight, give this lid a couple of taps, and you can see this has germinated beautifully. It's even across the board. This little corner that didn't have any germination now has germination that has caught up with the rest of the tray. And so this will be our last time top watering. So the next time we come on in 24 hours, we're gonna begin that bottom watering, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and mist the top. All right, guys, so now we're gonna take this tray, we're gonna flip it over and create a dome, and this is now blackout. And what happens in blackout is these shoots are going to spring up, stretching, looking for light. This is where the height part of the growth comes in. So we're gonna be back in 24 hours to show you the difference in height from now and then. All right, it has been 24 hours since we've last updated on broccoli. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this lid off. You can see how much it's grown. And now we're gonna begin bottom watering, okay? So now that they're germinated, they have a root system that is going to allow them to drink from the bottom. You can see some of the roots here. They're not strong enough for me to turn the tray just yet. And what you're going to do with bottom watering is you're going to just put enough to fill the ridges across the bottom, okay? I'm going to go ahead, splash that. We're going to put this back in. We're going to splash a little back and forth just to make sure those roots get water evenly distributed. And we're going to go ahead and put this lid back on. Now, some of the greens are a little bit greener around the edges, and that's normal. That's because they're getting a little bit of light through these cracks in the sides, but it's okay. They're still gonna grow evenly. So I'm gonna see you guys in another 24 hours. It has been another 24 hours for our broccoli. We're gonna go ahead and take off the blackout dome, check and see what it's looking like. It looks great. And I'm gonna tilt the side just so you can get a little bit of a view of the height. So we want a little bit more height out of this before we go into light. So we're going to continue to leave it in blackout, probably another 24 hours. Okay. Now my tray is heavy, so I'm not going to add too much water, and there's still condensation in the tray. So I'm going to give it just a tad bit, just enough to quench its thirst till tomorrow. Going to pop that back in there. Going to put this back under the dome, and I'll be back in 24 hours. It has been 24 hours for our broccoli. these guys should be ready to transition into light. We're gonna make that decision when we take this dome off. Oh yeah, these are definitely ready for light. You want them at least 3 inches tall. You can see these guys are nice and tall. So we're gonna go ahead and give it a bottom water. Gonna take that tray out, and these are heavy. They're pretty well watered from earlier this morning, which I did not video. So I'm just gonna give it a light splash just to coat the ridges at the bottom. We're gonna place that tray back in. I'm gonna tilt it back and forth. And I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video for a second and put it on the rack and show you what this rack is gonna look like. All right, so the broccoli is now on the rack, ready for light. The color is gonna start to change. You're gonna start to see it turn green over the next segment when we come back in 24 hours. We have 2 lights, a fan on each side of the rack, not pointed down at the greens, but across the top just to increase that airflow. So these guys are going to change color completely over the next 24 hours, and the leaves are gonna start opening up. See you then. It has been a full 24 hours since our last checkup on broccoli. As you can see, nice, even growth. Looks beautiful. They're greening up. Their leaves are starting to open, and that is what is supposed to happen at this point. So we're gonna go ahead and give these guys a bottom water. I'm gonna add just enough to coat the bottom because the tray is fairly heavy, but it does still need more water. Okay, so that's just enough to coat the bottom. We're gonna put this back in there. We're gonna place it back in light, and we'll be back in 24 hours to do another checkup. 24 hours on our broccoli grow. The leaves are starting to open up. It is nice growing, looks beautiful. I'm gonna show you the height. Does not change much once it's in light. That's why that blackout stage is important. This broccoli is fairly heavy, so that tells me my soil is damp. So I'm not gonna add much, just a little. Okay, just enough to get those ridges. And then we're gonna stick this back in there, and I'm gonna place this back in lights, and I'll be back with you guys in 24 hours. It has been a full 24 hours since our last checkup for our broccoli. It is looking great. These leaves are opening up. Nice, good height. We're gonna go ahead and continue with our bottom watering. These guys do not need much. I still have just a little bit of water in the bottom of the tray, so just enough to coat the bottom. And you'll learn as you go how to pay attention to the way your tray fills. My tray is pretty heavy, so that tells me I didn't need a lot at this point. Plus, still having that moisture at the bottom of the tray. Whereas if it were completely dry and my tray was really lightweight, that means I would add extra water. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these guys back in light, and I'll be back in 24 hours. It's been another 24 hours for our broccoli. It is looking beautiful. These leaves are opening up perfectly. We're gonna go ahead and continue with the bottom watering. We want these leaves to open up just a little bit more before we harvest. So I'm gonna go ahead, coat that bottom really well. They're pretty thirsty at this stage, so you're gonna put just a little more water than I typically would through the other parts of the grow. Definitely pay attention to your soil and the weight of your tray. That's gonna tell you if it's too light, you need more water. If it's heavy, you need a little less water, or maybe skip watering. If you notice your greens are kind of pulling away, hanging down, that is typically an indication that you need extra water. So we'll be back in 24 hours. It's been another 24 hours. Our broccoli looks absolutely amazing. You can see nice, beautiful height. The coverage is perfect. Looks amazing. We're gonna go ahead and keep this in light for another 12 hours just to let those leaves get a little bit bigger, and then we're gonna harvest. So when we come back, it'll be time to harvest, and you guys will have an estimation of how much you'll get in a 10 by 20 tray of broccoli. It is time to harvest. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is harvest the whole tray. I'm gonna weigh it out in a Tupperware, and I'm gonna tell you what yield you can realistically expect when growing broccoli if you follow the steps that we've shown you in this video, okay? So there are different ways to harvest. Some people choose scissors, some people use serrated knives. It literally just depends on what you feel comfortable with. I prefer a utility knife. The reason for that is it is easy to sanitize. I can change the blade. They're inexpensive. and I can angle it the way I want to. So that's what I'm using today. And the way you harvest is you're gonna grab a nice handful, and it's also been 12 hours from the last time I watered. Long shelf life starts with a dry microgreen, so wait at least 12 hours from your last water until you harvest. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna cut about a 1/4 inch above the soil line, just to kind of keep the dirt out of our greens. And when you package, or when you lay them in a tray, try to get them to face all the same direction. It's gonna make it a nicer, easier packaging experience and more appealing to your customers' eyes whenever you package them. Okay. Got a little dirt in here, that's okay. Just cut it off. We're gonna keep going throughout the whole tray. What I love about broccoli microgreens is the flavor. It's nothing like the full-grown vegetable at all. A lot of people don't like broccoli as a full-grown vegetable, whereas this is just completely different. It's more of a mild flavor, and it's a really, really fresh flavor. And I also will say, if you are doing this for commercial grows, you're going to be selling this to people, keep PPE in mind, okay? Personal protective equipment. Everyone should be familiar with what that is by now, with how the world has been lately. So please, when you do this, keep in mind, people are going to ask you if you use gloves. So don't lie about it. Be considerate of what people prefer. They're your customers, you want to please them. And use food safe, latex free gloves, okay? I'm not doing that because this is for my own personal use. Okay, so your yield should be anywhere from 12, well really 10.5 is realistically expected, to 13 ounces. I got 13.2, and I'll actually get this out the way and show you guys what the scale says, okay? So you can see 13.2. So that is a realistic expectation. If you get at least 10.5 ounces, that is a great growth for broccoli, okay guys? Thanks for joining. If you have questions, drop them in the comments. We will definitely be answering you.